Hello everyone, and welcome to another Blender tutorial. My name is Ruan Ferreira, or my channel is known as Awakening Animations. And yeah, we're gonna try and make a procedural wooden wall that can be used to place fences in your game or any scene you're busy creating. Okay, so usually I delete this crappy cube, but anyway, let's use what Blender gives us. So I've got the screencast keys on for anyone who wants to look at my button configuration. And yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a basic plank. So I'm really going to make this quite skinny. This is going to be quite stylized. So let's make a nice fattish looking plank. Maybe it could be that high. And let's scale it along the side. So let's say something like that. That's a good start for our plank. And when we scale things in object mode, it's a really good idea to apply the scale. And just to show you why, let's undo that. So I don't think the scale is applied. And in edit mode here, I'm going to try and bevel things. And there. So when you don't scale objects, apply the scale after scaling it in object mode, you've got this problem because Blender still thinks that the object is kind of that big, how big it was before you scaled it. So the bevels and stuff are working according to that dimensions you had there. Okay, so let's undo that, clear the scale, and now we should have some nice clean bevels. Okay, cool. So we're going to keep this kind of procedurally. So everything we do on this plank, we can use the same modifiers on like the posts, for example. So I'm just going to add some detail along this section here. Um, and that should be okay actually for what we're going for. Um, so yeah, let's get cracking with our modifiers. So I'm going to add a bevel modifier to start off with. And it's okay that it grabs everything, but since we want to use this modifier again, like kind of procedurally, we'll set up an angle here. And yeah, 30 is obviously good for this. We just want to bring down the amount. So let's say that's okay for our plank. No problem there. And it's up to you how many segments you want here. Um, if you want it really low poly, you can keep it down. Let's see how it goes with this for now. Um, so the purpose of the setup we're doing now is once we start to copy planks to create the full enclosure of our fence, we can use these parameters on each copy to get different variations of the plank so that they don't look all the same, and that's never fun having things looking the same. Okay, so here we go. So we've got our bevel. So the next thing I want to think of here is kind of variation. So what I can do is select these parts, but it's gonna work, but not really the way we want to. In fact, what would be better for this specific technique is to apply the bevel first and then isolate only the edges or the vertices along the bevel and add it into a group. So if we go into our group here, assign that group, and we'll just call this bevel. Spelling might be bad. Bevel. Anyway, let's just keep it simple. And yeah, so the next thing we can do here is add another modifier, which we're going to use to displace this guy. And let's keep it simple here, 0.1 for now. So it definitely does displace it. And we can add a noise. So the texture, and in the texture settings, we'll just add some clouds here. Okay, so at the moment I think the scale of the clouds are quite big. We want it smaller just to have a random kind of displacement along these parts. And what we want to do now is add that group into here. So these, the only vertices now that aren't being displaced are these ones here. So in a general sense, we'd like an edge loop in here as well. So maybe we can do that, add that edge loop in there and ensure that that edge loop shouldn't be displaced either. Let's just make sure of that. Let's go into our groups here, select what we have, and yeah, just what we don't want. Okay, so let's remove this and select again, and there we go. So now our modifier is only displacing our so-called beveled areas. And it just gives a slight bit of variation. So my goal would have been to have variation within the bevel, which we kind of have, but not that great. So we can play with that. We can maybe bring up the strength to have more displacement, but I think most of the love is going to come from playing with your noise here. So maybe a bigger noise is better. That looks quite decent. Um, we're getting a bevel variation now, which is what I was looking for, like smaller here, bigger there, a bit more medium here, and so on. Okay, so let's keep that. I like that. Let's add some depth in there, and maybe yeah, I don't know. That's okay for this first plank. Um, okay, so that's fine. Um, I'm going to use another display. So let's name this guy bevel. Let's make D for displace and then just say bevel. Okay, so displace the bevel. Cool. So let's collapse it. Collapse that guy as well. Now I want to add another displace. So this first part is going to take a while. It's setting up all our modifiers here, and afterwards we're just going to like copy our pieces and change settings within the modifier. So once again, I don't want this too big, but maybe a bit more, just so we can see what's happening. So on this guy here, I don't want the displacement along the normals. I want it along the x-axis. Is it along the x? No. I want it to be along the y-axis. So now you can see we kind of move the whole object because that's what displace does, right? It's kind of moves points around. And once again, we want another texture in here. And now we bounce back into the center, but we've got some variation around the whole piece. So back to this texture. Are we using the same texture? Texture 01. So we need to be sure here we're on texture 01. It's also using the clouds. So maybe for this guy, we can really crank up the size. Just so we get some variation of the plank, on this direction. So if we look at it from the bottom or the top, it's going like the squiggliness. Okay, so that's nice. It's kind of what I was hoping for, and we can just bring this down. So we don't want too much displacement there, just some plank kind of effect. And now we're going to do the same. So here we can name this guy D y. Okay, so displace on the y-axis, and duplicate modifier at the same position on the stack. Okay, so that's fine. We duplicate this guy. We call this one D. What's up and down in Blender? It's C. Sorry, in and out of programs, and y-axis is usually up and down. Um, okay, so for this one, we want it to be in the z-axis. Am I right? Am I right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now we've got that, but we want a different texture for this guy. Texture 2, so that we can have a different variation on it. So let's see. Maybe we want even bigger something here. Something like so. Okay, so that's just giving us some noise on the z-axis of this model. So that looks nice. It looks like a plank. It's uneven. It's not, it doesn't have a symmetrical shape at all. Okay. Um, so something else we could do here as well, and I'm just going to show this. We might use it, we might not. I'll add it anyway. So we can use a simple deform in here. So the first one twists it, which, well, why not? In some cases, I mean, a plank could be slightly twisted, so that could be some nice variation to use. So let's keep this twist guy, because maybe some of them we can twist into the negative and get them going the opposite way around. That could be nice. Okay, so let's just name this guy twist X or T, yeah, TX. Okay, and the nice thing about this is we can set an origin. So we'll be working with that soon, where we can like create an empty and place it somewhere, and then use the axis origin, place the empty in the axis origin, and it will only twist from that point or whatever operation we call for here. Okay, so that's nice. Why not? Let's do such a thing. And yeah, let's copy this guy now. So now we got a twist on top of a twist here. Let's call this B, and we don't know yet what we'll be bending it on. Thinking the Y for this guy. Um, anyway, so here we want a bend factor. So if we look at it from the front, so the Y, I mean the X is bending it around itself, something like that, which could be what we're going for, but in this case we're looking for a Y bend, and yeah, things go crazy. And the reason things are going crazy here is because of our origin. Okay, so what we can do is grab these two guys if we want it here, and these two actually to have it in the center, add our cursor there, set our origin to the 3D cursor, and that changes our bend. So let's not do that for now. Let's place our first empty, blah blah blah. Let's name this guy plank bin y. So it's a good thing to name these guys because, well, yeah, it's a good thing to name these guys. So let's parent the empty to the plank. So whenever we move the plank, the empty moves along. That's a good idea. And yeah, so now we can set our axis here for the bend. Okay. And now if we take a look at this guy, sorry, we're still not getting the right thing. Okay, let's double check that everything is set up right here. Let's remove this guy. So maybe Y, Z, Z is bending along there. X is bending along there. And Y is doing some funky stuff. Okay. Still using our origin for some reason. Even by doing that doesn't fix anything at all. Okay, Y is giving a form of taper. Okay, that's really weird. So I'm just trying to sort this out here while I'm with you guys. Okay, so the whole piece is not forming the way it should. Okay, so doesn't seem like that tapering's working. It might be related to the origin and stuff. So I'll just leave this guy out of the way for now, and we'll deal with that in other ways. So another way we can get some variation here is by using, once again, simple deform, and we can set this to taper. And yeah, we can lock whatever axis we want to lock here. And this is our factor, giving us the amount of taper. So maybe not too much, just a little bit of taper on the one side. And let's just call this taper. And just for you guys to know is that we can grab another taper here. Okay, let's just add it in the minuses, something like so. And what we can do is bring this guy in, let's say, onto that line over there. And we can use it as an origin for our taper. So now if we have a look here, we'll see that it's tapering on both sides. So a problem I've had and had the whole time is that this taper kind of affects the previous one, which is super annoying to me. I'd like it to act upon the shape we have there. But anyway, so that's just another ways we can have some effect, but it works a bit complicated if you put too many on top of each other. Okay, so let's keep it like that. Let's have a look at our taper here. Make it just a little bit smaller. Don't want too much noticeable stuff there. This guy is not being used. Okay, so we are how many minutes in? 18 minutes in. I'll keep this on 20 minutes. So these are our planks. What we want to do next, or what I'd like to do next, is hide this guy, put this in the center, and let's bring in a vertice. So where you at? One vert. Come on. Shift A, mesh. There we go. Single vert, add a vert. So here we've got a vertice. Okay. We're in object mode. Let's unhide this guy. So there's our vertice over there. Nothing serious. What I want to do is actually put our cursor around about there and put our vertice around about there. Okay, so to the cursor. So there we go. We've got one vertice over there, and I want to add an array modifier to this guy at constant offset on the z-axis. So let's just take that up. And so this plank here that I'm scanning, it's about one Blender unit here, looking at these blocks like that. Okay, so obviously we want to be somewhere the half of that Blender unit, so somewhere around there. Okay, and then we can add, let's say we want 4 of these planks, something like so. So this might be not the right way to do this, since we won't be able to affect our tools afterwards. So in fact, I'm going to delete that, and we'll manually place these guys. So Let's duplicate one, something like that. We'll come and play with their placements afterwards. So duplicate this guy, yeah, and duplicate the last guy, something like that. Okay, so this is where the fun comes. So we're on 20 minutes now. So what I'd like you guys to do until part 2, which will be coming really soon, is firstly, let's just keep it as 3 planks, is just to create different variation now of each of these planks using our settings here. Okay, so we can use the displacement bevel, the bevel size originally, and all of these things. Just play with the parameter. Don't forget to play with the texture sizes and stuff like that, just to get different looking planks, okay, so that they don't look like it's one guy that's been duplicated. And then in the next part, we're going to make some round posts here using the same modifiers, just changing their directions to get some detail on them. And then finally, we're going to add some posts, some bolts here for each of these posts, and we'll use a nice tip to copy these bolts where we want them to be. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 and stay tuned for part 2.